Okay, recording will start. We are recording. Hello, everybody, and welcome to She's the Moment, the video podcast of she'stheday.com, of which I am the editor, Ginger Wheeler. And today I'm so excited. We have our host, Janette Tepas, as usual. Say hi, Janette.
Hi, everyone.
We have to talk so that the camera actually focuses on you. And today I am so pleased to introduce our guest, Alice Wood. Alice, say hello to everybody.
Hey, everybody. Nice to be here today.
So I want to introduce Alice real quick. It's hard because she has a very long resume. She is an estate planning lawyer from the Chicago area, from Naperville in particular. She earned her JD from DePaul University College of Law in 1985, and she's following in her grandfather's footsteps, who was a U.S. Court of Appeals judge appointed by President Dwight D. Eisenhower. That is one level under the Supreme Court. She also served as director of gift planning for a community foundation where she helped guide wealthy individuals and their charitable giving. And she has written prolifically on the topic of financial planning and money management. She is the author of Saving is Sexy, Changing the Way Young Women Look at Money. And on she'stheday.com, we are about older women who also need to look at money. I'm sure the same concepts apply. But we'll find out in this interview. And she also wrote Wealth Watchers, a simple program to spend less and save more, as well as Savings of a Nation. And she has sold millions of copies of her Wealth Watchers journal. She is the founder of Wealth Watchers International, an organization that teaches financial literacy and has been featured in numerous mainstream media outlets like the Washington Post, Huffington Post, MSNBC, Good Housekeeping, and more. She also competed in the Miss Illinois pageant at age 19, and she is beautiful, which we love that, although that's not really why we're here. And also I wanted to point out that her work she has worked with the Federal Reserve Bank, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and the U.S. Department of Treasury on financial literacy. This woman knows what she's talking about. And Janette, who has said that finances is her kryptonite, meaning it zaps her superpowers, is super excited to talk to Alice. And at that note, I am going to hand it off to Janette and say good luck and have a great interview, ladies.
Thank you, Ginger. Thank you so much. Alice, welcome. Thank you for talking to us. We are, a group of women over a particular age who want to still be able to learn and do lots of things in our lives. And so actually, yes, when Ginger told me she had spoken to you about being interviewed, I was thrilled because that is my weakness. I do not have a good financial handle on life. And I'm very fortunate that I don't need to work full time right now, but it's something that's always been a monkey in my back. So you are a multi-generational Naperville resident, yes. As I understand. So tell me a little bit about what you've done, both your education, your life in general, and introduce us to you a little bit, if you don't mind.
Sure. So my dad was a banker, a community banker. And so I grew up in a family with 7 kids and always had it drilled into us, to turn lights off, be careful, whatever. I mean, I had no idea being a bank president was a good job because I always thought we were poor because he made us think we were poor. And, so we grew up with, kind of good examples in the world of money. And then, luckily I had a good career as an attorney. I made good money. And what really brought me to the world of financial literacy is I had a brain injury about 20 years ago. I was on a commercial flight that took off and the plane didn't pressurize and the oxygen mask came down. And just the mask in the row I was in didn't work. And so it turned out I was suffocating. So I had something called a hypoxic brain injury. So I part of the things, I had to relearn things. And one of the things I had to relearn was money. So I went from being good with it to being a disaster. And I gained a ton of weight at the same time. So I went to Weight Watchers to lose the weight. And you set and track a daily goal for spending and saving. And I just thought, gosh, I bet that would work for money. And shockingly, I was able to trademark the name Wealth Watchers. And it turns out that, a lot of people have the same same problem that I did. It's
Yes.
just a matter of, knowing your numbers, setting and tracking a daily goal. And, when your brain is scrambled, it's not pretty for money. And
Right. Right.
but it turns out, what I was doing wrong, a lot of people were doing wrong. They just weren't paying attention to their numbers. And um, again, what I learned, and I really owe it to Weight Watchers, is the importance of setting and tracking a goal. And there's
Okay.
just something so, I don't care what your goal is, whether it's losing weight or being better with money or, writing a book, whatever. If you have a goal, if you track your progress, it's just remarkable what that does.
Interesting. It's kind of like a plan with no plan is a plan for failure kind of statement.
Right.
And it's fascinating. So I did notice that it sounded, vaguely like Weight Watchers. So that explains why that connection was made. And it's great and it's useful, I would think, to call it that. And the fact that you're even sort of using it in a breakdown baby steps, right? Sort
Right.
of manner.
Well, I mean,
Which is so interesting because it always does seem like such a massive undertaking that it's frightening and you get a little frozen if you're like me. So I was saying I have supposedly dyscalculia. I self-diagnosed, folks. So, that's just on me. Always a fear of dealing with numbers. I'm an artist. So I think that's kind of common, right brain, left brain differences. But dyscalculia is sort of like dyslexia, but with numbers. And it's a real thing. I actually found and went, oh, that's what it is. So I'm appreciative to talk to somebody who doesn't have that and who has numbers and understands sort of a situation. Now, these days, I believe, as I recall, my daughter in high school, and she's in her 30s now, they were trying to do some classes in school that helped teach them about day-to-day spending. Have you found that to change at all? Or is it still, do kids still get out of high school not knowing anything?
Well,
Much
that
like us in middle age going, oh, I guess I should know.
right. That depends on the school, but consumer ed is usually where it's taught. And I don't care how smart you are, if you're a doctor or a lawyer or a neurophysicist, if you can't handle money, you're going to be lost. So it should be mandated curriculum for, actually, one woman said, from womb to tomb, it should be something that's taught all along. And so I have worked with high schools doing it in consumer ed. I've worked with Benedictine University in Lisle had brought financial literacy into their coursework. It was a 4-credit class. And I mean, it's remarkable what comes of it.
Yeah. And financial planning is so important. And we're dealing with mainly women over 50 or a particular age. So is there one thing that you would suggest? I mean, your books, absolutely. I want to buy your books. Are they available on Amazon or just your website?
Nope, they are on Amazon. And
or either
or you can try the library. They may be at your local library for free,
which is great.
Yeah. And so, and there's a ton of good books on financial literacy. So, I think the number one thing is to just care, like you say, you have the artist brain and the creative brain, but if you don't care, how are you ever going to get any better or be better with your money?
Sometimes it's hard to care because you can't see the physical. For instance, compare algebra and geometry. I'm better with geometry because it's visual.
Right.
You know what I mean? You see a graph or you see something and that's a little bit easier. So
you bring up a great point because we don't all learn the same way. So you got to find the system that works for you, and not every system works. Like for me, what works is tracking. I know other people do something that's like the envelope system. They pre-fund what they're going to do and they just use the cash in their envelopes. I mean, that's so old school, but it works for some people.
Yeah.
There's a great book called The Automatic Millionaire, and his premise is to automate everything. So you don't have to think about it. You automate, you name it, bill pay, savings. I'm a big fan of that idea too.
So does that seem at all to you along the lines of, for instance, these days, all the technical systems that are making it very easy to make payments? PayPal, okay, I get it. But I think of Disney, nothing against Disney. I'm a huge fan. But I also think of their little wrist bracelets that you can just touch it on something and it'll take your charge. And so that's so that none of us think of it. And
okay, this is something everybody should be thinking this way. Just remember, convenience comes at a price.
Yeah.
It does. Yeah. Convenience food brought on our obesity epidemic. Convenience financial products brought on our debt epidemic.
Yeah.
It's a problem.
Yeah. So usually when, for instance, a company is offering to, they'll give you, 6 months free of some product, whatever it is. And then, and then it's 6 months on them. And then you just sign up for the rest. And I keep thinking that I don't think they're doing this out of the goodness of their heart. I don't think
no.
With my best interest in mind. They're doing it so that they get ahead and you don't pay attention, I would think. So we do need to save more and spend less. Is there one thing that you would suggest? So we're just coming out of probably a savings time, maybe, because of the pandemic. And as the world is opening, there's a chance that we might get out and be tempted. I mean, if it's anything like the Roaring 20s, after their pandemic and then prior to the Depression, there may be a desire to go crazy spending and buying and, whatever, a little bit like the Roaring 20s was after that pandemic. So what would you suggest we do right now to plan for the future? Not go crazy, of course, but what else might you suggest would be one thing you could do?
Sure. I think looking at your bank statement and your credit card statement and seeing what might be on auto pay or looking at those bills, but you'd be surprised it might be time to renegotiate your insurance, or it might be time to renegotiate your cable company. I mean, it's a lot of little things that add up. So Ben Franklin had a great quote that little leaks sink great ships. And, this is what he's talking about, things that slip through your fingers because, you set it up on auto and then you don't go back and check. So it's not necessarily one and done. You want to stay on top of it and not obsess, but at least annually look at what's your outflow going to be.
That is a great quote and a great idea. And then, so for instance, as an estate planner, you deal with families and future estates, but also today's savings and what you might need to plan for. Is insurance a common involvement in that? Like, because you want to have enough money in the bank in case you do get sick, but also you want to be comfortable with what you can spend and.
Yeah. Well, so I'm not a financial advisor. I'm a good financial observer. And if I were going to give anybody advice, it's like, well, for sure, you want to have life insurance to take care of people that might need you, just in case you die young. And then I think everyone should have disability insurance. I mean, if you can't live without your paycheck, you need disability insurance. Right. So those are things I can usually look at somebody's financial statement and say, you're kind of light on life insurance. And don't underestimate the value of the non-working spouse, because it's typically the mom that stays home, not always. But a mom is a very expensive person to replace. So, don't think because they don't have an actual paycheck that they aren't valuable, because they are.
Right. And then now you must come across in your career lots of women who go through divorce, and maybe somebody else had been dealing with finances, or maybe they were, either way. And the change of halving everything, would you have a suggestion for how someone might plan prior to maybe divorcing? Or
sure.
But
yeah. So I mean, the planning should be with our young women that we know, and young men, training them how to be responsible adults and loving, respectful relationships. So the idea is, let's try to raise a crop of youngins that don't get divorced.
Yeah.
Everyone should be raised to be self-sufficient, so you can afford to be divorced if you make that mistake, as a lot of us have done. And that's just an important lifelong habit. You should be with somebody because you choose to be, not because you need to be.
Right.
So I think that's important. And then, when it comes to, so you've gone down that road and you're in a bad marriage, God bless you for getting out. I think it takes a lot of courage to quit. But I think that people should remember to look at mentors. Like, do you know anybody who's divorced that you respect, that you could maybe get some advice from them. Of course, you need a good lawyer, but remember, lawyers charge by the minute. So
Right.
you don't want to be using them as your social worker. You want to use your friends for that. And, again, having a good divorce, I just think the best bet is to be self-sufficient, not need anybody but yourself.
Yeah.
If you can.
Well, and I understand that you're in a situation that a lot of us are looking at right now, both pre-pandemic and post, that you recently began a new job or you started a new job at 62. What advice do you have to enter the workforce? Has it been ideal? Has it been less than ideal? I don't want you to say much about your job, but
no, I think
curious. As you say, a mentor in a situation that a lot of us are looking at. And so how's that been for you?
Yeah, I've always worked, so it's not new to me to be working. It's and I'm not afraid of change. So I think at our ages, though, you want flexibility. So that's a really hard thing to give up. But you have to do what you have to do.
Right.
So I get it. But I think always being a lifelong learner is a good idea. I have so many friends who are afraid they don't have the right clothes to enter the workforce again. So somehow or other having that confidence and maybe always I just think if you always work part-time, you're not going to have that fear. So I'm a big fan of part-time work.
Okay. Yeah.
I think that I've noticed this too, that when moms stay home, it makes me so mad, but a lot of times the kids don't respect them. They don't think of them as being smart or capable or whatever. That just makes me furious because the toughest job in the world is being the parent.
Right.
And
right.
yet there's no raise, there's no merit review, there's no vacation. And why is there no respect for that? I mean, sometimes there is, but a lot of times you're the doormat.
Yeah.
So if you're going to be a doormat, be a part-time working doormat. So you have a break from it.
Or not. I mean, we do need to teach our children. And so we've had talks about how we can help raise kids as part of the village, since a lot of us have already raised our kids that are with She's the Day and this crowd, and that we don't step in and tell our children how to raise their children, but we offer, sage advice, like you just said, don't be a doormat, and also point out how that the parents matter. Have you found that there has been a change? Now you're how many generations in Naperville did I hear?
I'm the fifth generation of my family.
Generation. That's great. And boy, what a lot of changes down there. That's been amazing. It's a beautiful suburb. I as a kid, I grew up outside of Lombard and nearby town, and the growth that happened out there was exponential, really. But I think the town did a really good job of it. And I understand your family's been involved in helping the town develop as it has, to keep a hometown sense. And would you say that has been useful for finances at all, or related in any way?
It's funny you bring up a good point about the generational differences. And back when I was a kid, getting a Slurpee was living large. And now the young people, it's nothing to spend $5 or $6 at Starbucks every day.
Right.
There's a big change too, like when we were young and getting married. It wasn't a destination bachelorette party. I mean, I swear to God, the younger generation, I worry they're trying to bankrupt each other.
Yeah.
So there's those challenges. And I think it's, again, as women, maybe mentoring or talking to young people, I don't want to be a stick in the mud, but really, does it have to be that way? I mean, somebody's got to have a backbone and say, this is just too expensive for my friends. We're just going to, go to a Cubs game or something.
Yeah, make it easier.
Yeah.
Well, tell me, are you, so you're working full-time right now, and are you writing any other books as well? I mean, is there something we can look forward to besides the books that I for sure want to buy, because I think I can really use the help? And so I would love to know what you're working on now too.
Sure. Well, so what I'm working on, I'm so excited about, but besides practicing law, it's something called Live Smart. So I have the trademark for Wealth Watchers, but wealth doesn't really resonate with a lot of people. But Live Smart, like who doesn't want to live smart?
Right.
And so, and what I've learned in being in the trenches of financial literacy is being good or getting ahead is so much more than just money. It's, having good health. 75% of our medical expenses come from things we do to ourselves.
Wow.
So let's just all live a little healthier. And then marrying the wrong person is disastrous. I mean, that's a huge setback. Having the right education makes a difference because we don't all need to go to college. And for sure, we shouldn't be racking up massive student loans.
Right.
So that's, part of the pillars of getting ahead, and then actually being good with money, knowing your numbers, knowing how to automatically set aside so much for savings and retirement. And you don't have to be a college graduate to be a millionaire. You can do that. It's just, it's the same path for everybody. You spend less money than you have.
Yeah. Yeah. And so is there a particular project you can tell us about or name?
Sure. Well, what I'm working on is something that I hope to partner on with Visa, the credit card company. And it would be a Live Smart credit card where every swipe goes right to your app. So it tracks automatically instead of the app that we have right now. You have to manually put it in. And, I like it okay, but it would be better to automate it. And so the Live Smart thing, I hope to partner with, like a clothing company too. So Live Smart is a brand. You can tell I'm not exactly original. Live Smart is sort of similar to Live Strong, although I'm not using steroids and tainting it.
It does help to be catchy. It helps. I mean, She's the day, and she's the moment are all based on seize the day and seize the moment. We cling to things. We remember them more easily, and they're important things. So, is there now presently a website for Live Smart?
It's part of the Wealth Watchers website right now, and it's a work in progress. And but it's just something like, gosh, if you think about it, I mean, it's not political. It's just like, who doesn't want to take on every day to live smart and do your best? And I like that idea of a unifying, I don't know, grassroots movement.
Yeah.
Just to care a little bit. I mean, just a little bit would make a huge difference.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the idea would be actually rewriting the Savings is Sexy book under the Live Smart umbrella, because when I wrote that, it was before the hashtag Me Too movement. Okay. So, I mean, combining money and sexiness is like really offensive. My bad.
And I'm still not convinced it's sexy, but it's smart. So
you know what though? It is. I mean, you'll have to read the book, but I did tons of research on it. It's kind of, I'm not making that up. It's just a true statement.
Yeah.
But still, a message has to be delivered in a way it's going to be heard. And if that title is offensive, which I kind of think it is, we'll just change it. And the information is great. And I wrote that for young women, but the first call I had was from a guy who was downloading it or uploading it, something from Amazon. And he called me and he's like, this is an important book. Every young person should read this. And I'm like, wow, that's going to be a bestseller. But it really wasn't. It only, it sold thousands of copies, not millions. And but it is an important message.
Well, it is. And I'm delighted that you were willing to share some of it with us. So I want personally to know more. I need to know more. And so where would you suggest we go, all of our audience, whoever that may be, to find information about you and your work, which sounds really great?
Well, ordering on Amazon is great because, I like people to be frugal and use the library, but any funds that come in towards me just furthers the movement. It's not something I bank. It's just something that helps.
So there's Wealth Watchers, the book, but is it also Wealth Watchers a website?
There is a Wealth Watchers. It's ewealthwatchers.com.
eWealth.
So you can go there. Yeah, you can go there to buy the book. And there's a space on the website too for blogs that I've written that I think are really good.
Oh, great.
So, yeah. I think
that's great. It's so helpful to so many of us that you are willing to share the knowledge that you have, whether in a blog or a book or I mean, blogs, you can go read it for free. You're not even,
Right.
and like you said, the library. I mean, leave it to a financial person to go, oh, don't buy the book, go to the library. It's so nice, and we appreciate that. But I think any of it would be great. So I thank you so much for taking a little time to talk to us and telling us what you're up to, and to meet you and get to know such a terrific idea, and I'm happy that you're involved in it. I'm delighted to meet you.
Well, thanks, Janette. This was fun, and it's nice to talk financial literacy.
Yeah, boy, do we need it. Boy, do we need it. And I hope that is changing. Hey, Ginger, thank you for having us to have the conversation. So interesting, and I'm buying everything.
All right. Thank you both so much. This has been a great show for She's the Moment. Really appreciate it. You can find us at she'stheday.com. Currently, speaking of money, we don't ask for any money in exchange for the content that we're developing and putting online, but that may change in the future. We might be asking for donations in the future. I'm sure it will just be a simple donation model, though. There's not going to be a paywall or anything like that. But you've given me some ideas to think about, Alice. So thank you. And Janette, as always, wonderful hosting. Ladies.
Absolute pleasure.
Yes, thank you. And we're going to stop the recording now, and have a great day, everyone.
Thanks, Ginger. All right, bye-bye.